Hello. How are you? This is Els Company from Bemis Crafty Corner, and this is week 3 of the Traveler's Notebook series. If you have not watched the first 2, I suggest you go back and watch those. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. That's fine. There we go. Didn't like the way that looked. So let's kind of go back and look at what we've done so far, where we're at, and where we're going, okay? So in the first week, we made these 2. And the first one, it was this one here. And it's just 2 pockets, very simple, very easy to do, but pretty standard for a traveler's notebook. And in the second one, we made this, again, pretty easy, pretty basic, and pretty standard, okay? We talked about how to get this dip in here and, you know, how to gusset this and all of that. So that was the first week. We did these 2. Then in week 2, we did your choice of a pad that the paper at the top can tear off, and you can use it wherever you want. And you could put an extra pocket over here if you wanted to. You, of course, can put pockets on the inside or the outside, however you want it to. And the second one we did was this one. And this is got a pocket here. It's got a little pocket back here. And this one is just a standard, like, notebook. The thing with this one, though, is that I used perforated paper. And that means that I can tear out a piece if I want to, nice and evenly. Okay? And it's lined very faintly. So very nice. If you can find this type of paper, this is a very nice presentation. Okay? Now, we have all of our inserts. Matter of fact, we have an extra insert because most traveler's notebooks have 3. And so today we're going to work on covers. And I thought, you know, maybe we would do like the easy one first, you know, the simple, quick, get it done one. And then I said, no, you know what? We're going to do the one that's more detailed. And that would be a cloth cover. So we're going to talk a little bit about types of cloth covers. And we're going to do one, okay? So let's talk about them first. So your first cloth covers could be cloth that is fused to paper to make a cover, so you'd have paper on the inside and cloth on the outside. The second type, which is the type we're going to be doing, which is multiple layers of fused fabric. We're going to be doing that today because I want that nice thick feel. And another way that you can do this with fabric is if you have like a piece of leather or faux leather or suede or something like that, you could certainly make a cover out of that and just cut it. You don't have to do anything else pretty much with that. If you are using the faux suede, you may do a cold application of fabric on the inside just to give it a lining. But today we are going to be making a fabric one, so I'm going to get out some supplies and I will be back to show you what I'm going to be using today, okay? I'll be right back. Okay, so ruler, fabric scissors, a fabric for the outside, a fabric for my inside. I'm going to be using some heat and bond to fuse the 2 together. You can also use fabric fuse or spray adhesive fuse if you want to. And then this is bias tape. This is extra wide double fold, so it's about 1/2 inch wide. And I'm going to be using this on the edge. Now, if you sew, you can put this through your sewing machine. If you do not sew, then you can use like Fabri-Tac or something like that, or you can blanket stitch this by hand if you want to. That's entirely up to you. And the other thing that I'm going to be using that you may not have is this. This is a special pen that, well, you put it on, and get my water, my little water squirty. and it stays on until you take it off. Okay? So it's a water-soluble pen, and so we're going to be using that. Okay? All right. So I'm going to start by getting ready to prep my top piece. For my outside cover, okay? So, remember, most travelers' notebooks are 8 1/4 inches tall and 4 1/4 inches wide. But let's be honest, the 4 1/4, it doesn't really hang, you know what I mean? So, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start by removing this selvage edge, okay? Because I don't want that. So I'm just going to take the selvage edge off. And get rid of it. And then I'm going to be cutting a piece that's going to go around my notebook. So you have 4 1/4. Figure about a 1/2 inch for your books, and then 4 1/4, and then figure about a 1/2 inch, and then you want to go about 3 inches past that. So that takes us to 9 1/2. So 10 1/2, 11 1/2, between 12 and 12 1/2, okay? So I want a piece that is 8 1/4 by about 12 1/2 inches, okay? So I'm going to take my fabric so that I can actually do this here and you guys can see me do it. And I'm going to fold it so that we can all see it. There we go. See? Now it's on the board. We can see it. I am going to put it over here. Make sure that I have it on the line so that it's nice and square. I'm going to get my ruler. And I'm going to come out here to about 12 1/2. And that's where I'm going to use that magic pen. And I'm going to draw a line. Now, this is going to be covered, so if you want to use just a regular pen, you can do that because, you know, for the most part, this part will be covered. I happen to have it, you know. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this down. And then we're going to cut a piece of this that's 8 1/4 inches tall. Get out a longer ruler. Okay. All right. Now this is duck cloth. It's sort of like a canvas, but slightly more pliable. So this is my cover, basically, okay? So when I take my pieces and I put them in, it'll come around and then it'll have like a flap that comes over this side. All right. Now we're going to make book cloth out of this, and we're going to cut a piece of the lining fabric to the exact same size, and then we're going to fuse the two pieces together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get out everything that I need to make this into book cloth. I'm going to get this piece cut down, and then I'll come back and we'll do the fusing. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, so we're going to do this just a little bit different than normal for this, because we're not really making this book cloth, okay, for this step. So for this one, and this is easy to do because all you have to do, you know, to cut your bottom and everything is just, once you have your piece cut, you just trace. So, so this is my top fabric, and I'm going to put it down, face down, on my ironing board. And then I'm going to put this on top of it. And we want this to be just inside, you know, the lines of our fabric. We want it just ever so slightly smaller. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now this is Heat and Bond Light. The iron is set to cotton. And I've already tested my duck cloth to make sure that it wasn't going to melt under the heat. And we're going to press this on, and it'll take a few minutes for the adhesive to melt and to fuse with the fabric. So just take your time. Don't rush this process. Okay, and we'll go ahead and test to see if we're ready. And to do that, all I'm going to do is peel this up, and what I want is a nice shiny texture here without any being left on the paper. Okay, and I still have some left on the paper, so we're going to go ahead and let this sit for a few more minutes. This is a little tabletop ironing board that I use. It just keeps my mat stuff from getting damaged. Of course, you could do this with a towel if you wanted to. All right, we're going to go ahead and test this again. We're going to test a different corner this time. All right, that's looking good. All right, so I'm going to let this cool. Let me get that back down. I'm going to let this cool for just a few minutes, and then I'm going to come back, and when I come back, we're going to go ahead and fuse this to the other piece of fabric, and then we're going to talk about how I'm going to finish the edges. I'll be right back. Okay, so the next part is going to be to fuse the two pieces together. So we have, I don't know if you guys can see that shiny piece there. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this on top of this one, and then we're just going to press this. Again, I've pre-checked that the other fabric can handle this heat. Now this will take a little longer. So I'm going to go ahead and fuse this down and get it all fused, give you the chance to do that, and then go ahead and start the video back up, and we'll move on to the next part, which is either going to be hand sewing, sewing on a machine, or using your glue to seal the edges. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so we have opened up our bias tape, and I have some right here. And I'm going to be stitching mine on today, but I did want to talk about, you know, other options. One of the other options is that you can take this and you can glue it onto by gluing the bottom first, and once that's, you know, dry, then you glue down the top. I would recommend starting in the middle. And I'll tell you why. When you put your pieces in, you're going to have a flap that's going to come over your pieces like this. And then you're going to have a flap that closes it. Okay? Your elastics are going to be along here. So you don't want to start over here. So the best place to start is the middle. So I would just find the middle of my cover right here, and that's where I would start putting this down. Now I'm going to be sewing mine down, so I'm going to be getting out a sewing machine. All right, and I will be right back to do that, and I'm going to show you how I would do this. Now if this was thin, because this is kind of thick, if this was thin, I would put this on and just sew through the whole thing at once. But if I do that and this is thicker, I can't guarantee that I'm going to catch it properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch the back on first, like this, keeping that fold right along the edge. And then I'll come back, turn it over and do it the other way, and I'll show you. Okay, so this is not the best, most, you know, not the best angle, but just so you get the idea. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to start here in the middle. And I do have a tiny little sewing machine that I was going to get out, but now when I come to the corner, I have to pivot. So I'm going to drop this in, making sure that I catch that thread, that piece. And then I'm going to lift up the presser foot and turn the whole piece. Okay? And then we're just going to continue down. So I'm going to finish this. Put my presser foot back down. I'm going to finish this, and then I'll show you how to do the flip. Where has my pokey tool gone? There we go. really hard for me to do this in this position. So we're doing the best we can. What all I'm doing here is just making sure that I press that down so that it catches the piece and it lays flat. It'll actually be easier on the other side. Now, when I come to the end down here, when I get to this end, I'm going to fold this in just a little bit, like a 1/2 inch. And that will make it set a little bit flusher. And then I'm going to backstitch just a little bit. Come on. You can do it. Or not. Maybe it doesn't want to. There we go. Alright. So then I'm going to take this out. Cut my threads. Make sure that I put my threads back under. And now I have this stitched on the back. And I need to stitch it onto the front. So I'm going to fold these two pieces over each other. I'm going to start just before it. Let me bring this over here where you guys can see. So this is my flap, and I'm just going to bring it over. And this might be a little bit tough right here to get through, depending upon your machine. So I'm going to hold my threads and drop my needle. Like I said, this is actually going to be easier on the front than it was getting it put on the back. Now I'm going to trim off all of these strings. And I am back stitching. All right. All right, so we're done sewing this. So I'm gonna get the sewing machine out of the way and I'll be right back. Okay, so we are all done with this. This is all fused and it's been stitched all the way around and the seams are closed and we're ready to put in our books. So let's go ahead and get 3 of these and let's just kind of put them where we believe they should be and then fold this over. And we want this to just barely just come over the edge, okay? That is going to be where we're going to put our threads. So to mark that, I get a pin. Okay? And I just put a pin through where I want it to be, top and bottom. Okay? Now you can do this any way you want, but for me a pin works. You could put a paper clip on here or a clamp or whatever you want to use. Okay? Alright. Then I'm going to get these out of the way. Hi, Harry. Harry, stop. Stop. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to make sure that these are pretty even. It's about 4.5. And about 4.5. Okay? So now I'm going to poke some holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that pen out again that I had. I'm going to put some holes here. Just going to put some marks where I want my hole to be. Okay? Then I can take my pins out. All right. Now again, this is the way that I do it. May not be the way other people do it, but it's the way that I do it. Then I'm going to take my hole punch and I'm going to set my hole punch to how deep I want to put my hole in at. So let's take a look. I like that. And then I'm just going to punch a hole. Okay? Now, it may be a little, you know, a little sloppy because you're going through fabric and batting and everything else under the sun, okay? So just go easy. You may have to clean it up with a pair of scissors. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab a couple of eyelets. And for this, I'm using the ones that don't have the backing. And I'll put it from the front in. And then I'm going to set that eyelet. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to come in over our mark, poke a hole, get all that out of there, and then we'll set our eyelet. Harry's helping me today. He is. He's being very, very helpful. Okay, he's not being helpful at all. All right, so now I have my 2 pieces. That is where my spine is going to be. And then this will be my flap. Okay? So now we have to thread this with elastic. Now you can use the thin elastic like this or the flat elastic, whichever one you want. And you're going to go through these holes about 5 or 6 times. So you want to go once, twice, 3, 4, without putting any tension, 5, about 6 times. And then we're going to cut it. All right. So we're going to go down through one hole and up through the bottom. Now, some people like to do this where they put, 3 eyelets in here and, I don't see the reason. I'm going to bring this about 3/4 of the way back down, and I'm going to hold it there. And then I'm going to bring it back up. And because this is fabric, I can pin this. It's kind of an advantage to using fabric, is that you can pin a lot of things. Okay. I'm going to bring this back up. Now I'm going to make sure that I don't cross these. I don't want to put one around the other. So I always want to make sure that when I put it in, it's to the right, okay? And then I'm going to take up just a little bit of the slack. I'm going to bring these 2 pieces together, and I'm going to tie a knot. Cut this. There we go. Now this is where my books are going to go in. 1, 2, and 3. All right. Now I have to put some kind of closure on this. Now again, that is where using fabric is kind of helpful. This is an elastic stretch trim, and we're going to use that to create our wrap for this, okay? So let's get our books in. And we just have to decide on what order we want them in. And I like my notepad to be up front. So all I'm going to do is just take one of these, the one on the left, and bring it over there. Then I'm going to put my big envelope pocket, because I like that in the middle, on the next one. And then the last one is going to be this double pocket. Okay. Bring this over. Bring this over. We're going to attach this to the back. So I'm going to put it right there at the middle. Go around. And I'm going to cut this off right about there, an inch longer than I need it to be. Okay? Because I want to be able to overlap this. I definitely like the look. All right, so We're going to find about the middle. And this is the one place where we're going to do a little hand stitching. So I'm going to get out a needle, some thread, and I'll be right back. I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. So take out the books. Now that you have them in there and we know where that back piece is, go ahead and take those out. And get out a needle and thread, and we're going to do just a quick hand stitch here to put this in. All right, I'll be right back. All right, so I could do this on the machine, but it's just easier to do it by hand. So I have some black thread and I have a needle which I've already threaded. And I'm just going to wrap this around my finger a couple of times just to put a knot at the end. Pulled that knot right off the end, I did. All right, there we go. Now, if you're a little low on the, you got a big thread, you can take it off if you want to. And then I have a needle here, I have thread, and I have my closure. Now this has to be a loop like this, and it has to be attached here, like right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down, and I'm just going to pin right through both pieces and the fabric, but I want to make sure that I don't catch any of these threads. If you have a safety pin or something, if you safety pin these off to the side, that's ideal. Okay? And then I'm just going to do some very quick stitching. And I'm going to come up from under the lace. Okay? So I'm going to come under here and come under the lace. I know this is so hard for you guys to see this. And that's just to hide the knot in the thread. Okay? And then I'm just going to take a couple of quick little stitches. A bit of an elastic there. Okay. So we go in underneath. And come up from the bottom. Okay? And that's just going to secure it. And then we go halfway back, go down, come back up, pull the needle through. So all we're doing is just a basic back stitch, okay? A nice, easy, basic back stitch. And hand sewing is a whole lot easier to do when you don't have bad hands. All right, so now I have a couple of stitches in there. I can take that pin out. And as I said, if you have a sewing machine and you're okay with doing it that way, put it on the sewing machine and do it. You don't have to do this part by hand. Just line it up where you want it, put a pin in it to hold it, and go back and forth over it a couple of times, 3-4 times, okay? Probably should have picked a better needle to do this. I'm using what's called a between. It's a quilting needle, and it's really tiny and really thin and really hard to manipulate with my carpal tunnel. All right, so once I have that secured, okay, what I'm going to do is tie a knot underneath here, again, so I can hide the thread. So I'm just going to take one little stitch, and then I'm going to take a little stitch, and then I'm going to take my thread where it comes out of the material, and I'm trying to do this so you guys can see it. So there's the needle. This is the thread that comes out of the fabric. 1, 2, 3, and pull through. Okay? And that is a knot. We'll cut that off. And then we're going to put our books back in. That's 1, 2, second one here. Doop. And 3. That around, bring our top over. This is our closure. And then, you know, I could add a little piece to that if I want to. If I want to put like a little charm or something on there, I could certainly put that on if I wanted to. But that's it. That is it for the fabric cover. Now, next time we are going to do a paper cover. All right. And a fabric paper combo. All right. So if you have any questions about this one, don't hesitate to put them in the comment section below or reach out, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. That's it. That's all I have for you today. Listen, if you're new here and you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that button for me and subscribe. Like me, ring my bell, share me with all your friends, and your friends can be my friends can be your friends, and our friends can get to be friends before you know it. We have a giant crafting community. I do go live Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, and I post videos Mondays and Wednesdays and any other time I feel like it, really. Let's see, what else have we got going on? We have these free classes. I have a series of these free classes going on in 2022. If you'd like more information, when you subscribe, make sure you just click that all notifications button and you will know as soon as these are released. The other thing that I have going on is my 12 of 22 journal challenge. If you would like to get more information on that, you do not have to do all 12 journals at this point. If you would like more information on that, just go ahead and go to the description box below and click on the link. It's going to take you over to a little slideshow to tell you everything that you need to know. Until I see you next week, guys, stay safe. Bye-bye.